everybody knows him almost in the world. Okay, so that's for Scott Adams. Now, let me talk about the second character I will share today is Robert Lang. His career was a little bit different, and he's an engineer by background. And so he's been coding stuff, complicated stuff for various companies. I'm sorry, this is not working this morning. Percent and combined. Or spend your lifetime focusing on just one thing, hoping that one day somebody will say, yes, he or she is the best at this. This is the person I need. And so for us here, what do you think is the right model? Which path should we follow? The one on the left or the one on the right? On the left. On the left. So how many of you says on the left, this is the right path to follow, being a triple threat? A few people. Okay. On the right, how many people? A couple. And everybody else is thinking what? Both? Okay. So this is just my personal experience, okay? I'm not saying this is a science. And here's my thought on this. If you don't have a very clear passion like Robert Lang, he's been folding papers since he's this size. Probably it's wiser to look for different things that you can combine together. Hence the path for Scott Adams was like this. He was not like passionate about comic strips. He was young, but he found a way to combine different things. Robert is very different. He had that passion since he was little, and so he spent his lifetime polishing that skill, that passion. For us here, for this particular session, how many of you have a clear passion that you can identify? How many of you have a clear passion that you have since you're a kid? Anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's 5% of the room. Great. So for you, probably the best path is this one. Are you working on that? Are you polishing your passion, your skills around that passion? Yes? Kind of? Okay. For everybody else, unclear. So you need to make it clear. So I'm going to talk now about...
Have you heard of the T-shaped model?
Yes.
Do you think that applies?
It does. Do you want to share about it?
Yeah, the T-shaped model is you go in depth into one passion, but you also had some breadth and learn a little bit about everything.
Yes.
It's a kind of combination of the two.
Do you want to share a specific, your personal experience with the T-shape?
I mean, it's I guess fairly common. I mean, I like computers since I was little.
Okay.
So that's kind of my passion and my strength. But I've always been interested in other, ancillary things that are around, business, soft skills, these kinds of things. And just, languages, traveling, learning a little bit about.
10 years ago, I came back to Vietnam, because originally I was born in France. And then I worked there, I studied there, and then I went back to Vietnam 10 years ago. I had a very emotional moment 10 years ago when I came back to Vietnam. I visited the museum of how is it called? The War Museum. Have you visited it? Yeah. How many of you? Okay, almost the full house. So very emotional moment for me, because in Europe you're not told the same things that what happened during the war as here, and so I saw those disturbing photos and stories, and so I thought, I can come back to France and have a normal life, but it's a bit kind of boring, or I can come back here and try to do something that makes life a little bit better for my people, Vietnamese people. And so that was a cheesy idea that I had 10 years ago. When I talked about it, people said, why are you going to just get a job and get over it? And I stuck to it. I said, in 10 years, I want to be back here. I didn't know I was going to talk at MIT, but I said I want to get back here, do something good for the people, my people. That was the idea. And then I didn't know about Robert Lang and Scott Adams. I knew about them much later in life. But then what I did is I made a very simple plan. I said, okay, guy, you need to, if you want to help people, you need to help yourself first. So I'm very pragmatic. And so I was broke at the time, and I didn't have money. I was still living with my parents. This person, talk to that person, pitch myself so that people give me a chance to work in real estate. That worked out. And so they made a lot of money. I made very little money. I spent there 2 years, and then after 2 years, I had learned what I needed to learn, in my opinion, in order to know how to build real estate businesses. Specifically, I was working at Big C. How many of you have heard of Big C before? Big C. Nobody is going to Big C? Supermarket, come on. So they have a real estate branch. What they do is they buy a big piece of land like this, 20,000 square meters, 30,000 square meters, 15, 20, $30 million investment roughly, and then they build a shopping mall and then they release it back to Big C. But it stays in the same company, so they're very smart. The money goes around. And so I was working for the real estate branch, so I learned the art of putting those deals together, working with lawyers, finance people, constructors, landlords, the government, I mean, everything in between. And then I had to think back, what's the original plan here? You can still do real estate, or you have to go back to the idea, which is it helping people having a better life? You can argue that Big C is making your life a little bit better, but I didn't see myself working for Big C forever, and so I had to go back to the original idea, review it, and say, okay, so I know a little bit about real estate now, I still didn't make any money, so what's next? So I flew to Bangkok through some introductions. People introduced me to this person and that person. I said, now I want to learn about business. I'm okay with real estate now. I want to learn about business. And what a new business, if I need or if I want to. And I'm in education. I'm in the people business that is supposed to help people have a better life. And so this is kind of in line with the original cheesy idea that I had 10 years ago. And so only now can I say, yeah, I have different areas here that I know how to combine to produce something that is meaningful to me, but also in line with my plan. And so I kind of adopted Scott Adams' model as opposed to Robert Lang's model. For me, it was more a combination of different things. And so long story short, right now, why I'm at Upstart is we are building tech companies, software companies, in the people space. So we want to help people. When you go to work, we want to help you guys have a better employee experience and have the opportunity in every company that you go to, have the opportunity to learn and to develop yourself, as opposed to just go to work and then go home and then go to work and say, thanks God, it's Friday. We want to create more inspiring workplaces. So that's what we do for a living now. So long story short, that's the whole model, guys. There's nothing more, I would say, complicated for this topic today. It's really about picking the right one in the first place. So if you have a passion, and Huy, right? Huy, talk about his model in a bit. If you don't have a passion, then have an idea. And the idea, for me, the way it worked is it was a 10-year idea. And I just picked 10 years arbitrarily. There was no rule. For you, it might be 5 years. 3 years, probably a little bit short, because what you need to do on your way is build different skills that then you can combine together. And generally, that takes a little bit of time. So I found that 10 years was reasonable. And as you go, sometimes I have the chance to coach different people on their career, and I see a lot of young people doing starting something like I did 10 years ago, and then they get lost on their journey. They forget about the original idea, and they just get trapped into that job because it's just their job. They do it. It's like me, if I was stuck in real estate, I would still be in real estate today. But I would have lost what was the original idea. Why did I come back here? Not to do real estate, but really to help people develop themselves. And so my point is start with an idea, but you need to have your plan that you review regularly. And the regularly, what worked for me was on a weekly basis. Like I have a stack of books like this, where every week I review. How am I progressing towards the idea? If I'm not progressing, I'm like, shit, I need to do something different next week. When I'm progressing, I'm like, great. I'm gonna have a coffee with my wife to enjoy. And that's pretty much it. And so there's nothing complicated really. You just need to start with some plan, take action, just review. And then if you're on track, just go on. If you're off track, then you just need to do something else different next week. Not next month, next week. And so that's the whole story of how to be your own product. For me, the way it worked is building different things, putting them together, and then figuring out the pitch, which is how you sell the idea. which I'm happy to talk about in the Q&A if you want, like the technical